two weekends ago, I spent a day in Chicago, Illinois, where African-American male executives of the transit industry come together once a year. I got to spend one day with them. They were there together for 3. I got to fly in and spend one day with them. And it was the most powerful time I've had in a very long time, where they talked about what is it we need to do to really help America return to the greatness of this nation, solidify its future going forward, but also repair the breach. And in everything they talked about, it went back to somehow we've got to put our families back together. Because if you think about the mass incarceration of African-American men, you think about the miseducation of an African-American community, and now even more communities of color, when you think about the drug addictions that run rampant throughout our communities, and even some of the continuation of our ghettos that we don't experience here in Denver, but are prevalent all across the nation, it goes back to the destruction of the family. We got to start there if we're going to realize the dreams they talked about in this great march that day. We want to realize the dreams that so many people put their lives on the line for. That's where it starts. And we recognize as more and more reports come out that we have regressed, we can bring it right back to the fact that families have changed. It's not just in the African-American community. Families have gone through it in America. And so we do have work to do. And it has to be built and it has to be set on the basis that we hope to be the nation that we want to be. Let me just share this closing story with you, and I'll get out of your way. So we had some challenges last summer. And a lot of people talked about gangs being the reason why we had so many problems, right? We had a couple drive-bys. We had an officer in Denver lose her life while breaking up a fight in City Park. So I talked to some of our advocates and facilitators and mentors and counselors of gangs, and I want to talk to some gang members. So I want to do it quietly, and I want no media around. I just want to have a heart-to-heart. And my goal was to Representative Phil to look at me in the eye and say, you will not win this battle. Everything that I have under my power, I will direct toward making sure that you don't win control of this city. You won't have this city in fear. And so the facilitator said, Mayor, where you want to hold it? I said, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll go to their hood. We'll sit in the park. I'm from the city. There's not a place I've ever been afraid to go in Denver, Colorado. We will go. He said, no, we want to bring them to your office. See, these kids will never imagine they'll get a chance to go into the mirror. Bring them in. So we waited until the city and county closed and brought them in at 5:30, and I was stunned. These young people walked in, and even though I grew up in the city, had gang members as schoolmates and classmates, these young people walked in, and some of them had ties on, and they looked good. And they sat down, and they did not fit the image of what we might imagine gang members to be. And they were all different races and hues, and 14 of them. And I asked them the first question out of my mouth was, what brought you to this point? And the young person, to a young person, they went around the room, and every one of them talked about how they became members of a gang. And what do you think every one of them said? 100%, not one detour or frolic from this answer. My family let me down. Not one kid said anything else. I didn't have a family. I didn't know who my parents were. My mom and dad were on drugs. I moved from family to family. I moved from house to house. I was alone. Every one of them said it. There was one young lady who caught my attention because she was the most loquacious of everyone in the room. Every question I asked, she was the first one to answer. And let me tell you, she looked hard. Beautiful soul, but she looked harder than anyone in the room. I have this real crazy quirk about me. I like to crack hard people. I wasn't cracking her. This is a young lady I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley, Friday through Monday. I wouldn't want to meet her in the daylight. I told her this, so I'm not speaking out of turn. There was one question that did crack her. As she kept talking, and I said, wait a minute, hold up. I said, you are blowing me away. You are the most articulate person that's ever sat at this desk. She kind of went, I said, no, I'm going to tell you something. I've had ambassadors. I've had mayors. I've had billionaire CEOs sit right here at this table. None of them touch you when it comes to articulating what you're thinking. Not one. I said, you being so worthy, what brought you to this point? She broke. Her voice started to quiver. She started to cry. She looked me dead in my eye and she says, what do you do when you never heard that before? What do you do when no one ever tells you you're worthy and you matter? There's a generation of kids, no matter what race, who are defying the dream that was outlined for us as a nation. It's about families. And it's about that young lady. And it's about these children who are sitting here today that we got to look at and say, you're worthy and you matter. And that starts with us, the adults, because we can form those words better than anyone. And so as we listen today, as we talk about the dream that was laid out for us, as we think about the path we must carry forward, when we think about the education, and we think about pulling our communities together, I hope that today we all think about the power of the opportunity for us as adults to when we meet young people who don't have the family, that we can stand in the gap for them, just as Lauren did for me. To say you simply to me, you matter and you're worthy. Donnie, thank you again for what you've given us as a gift, and thank all of you for being here to celebrate this moment.
Thank you, Mayor, for those powerful comments. It's a great introduction to our theme this evening. All I want you to think about this evening is, where do we go from here? That's our theme this evening. Where do we go from here?
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. It's always difficult to follow Mayor Hancock, but we will do our best. Again, my name is Winston Grady Willis. I'm chair of the Department of Africana Studies at MSU Denver, and I'm also someone who was born in Pueblo and grew up here in Denver. And so every single discussion over the course of the past 5 months has not only had meaning for me intellectually, but also really at a profoundly personal level as well.